How's it going, everyone? Welcome to part number 2 of 10 brutal endurance racing crashes. We're going to keep the intro on this one short and sweet. If you haven't seen the first one, I'll link it in the description below so you could check that one out after you're finished watching this one. The clips here are featured in no particular order. With that being said, let's get right into number 10. During practice for the 2009 Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta, Scott Sharp had this absolutely horrific crash where he did not see a slower GT Porsche coming out of the pits. This led to Scott catching some air and his Acura P1 disintegrating in what seems 1,000 pieces. Thankfully, Scott Sharp was okay and got out of the car under his own power.
Sixth gear, hauling up turn one due to the huge wheel arches. Never saw a little Porsche that exited the pit lane, and whether I moved over, he moved over, whatever, we collided, and he got me just at the point where the car was light enough that all he had to do was just tap the right rear and boom, just sent me spinning. And at that speed, it didn't take long before just turning over, going over, and everything gets pretty dark for a minute, and I tasted the clay, and I'm like, I'm rolling. And next thing I know, the car just lands, and I'm like, your first inclination is get out. And so just, I think someone was looking at the video, I think it was 7 or 8 seconds from the moment the thing finally went that I was out of the car.
The 2014 World Endurance Championship season finale in Sao Paulo, Brazil saw Mark Webber's Porsche 919 make contact with the slower GT Ferrari of Matteo Cressoni. Mark Webber ended up getting the worst of this with a severe concussion and a lung contusion.
The car sits in the middle of the track. Here comes the fire vehicle, and yeah, it's exactly the sort of thing we've seen in F1 when somebody gets the wrong side and gets pushed into the wall. Secondary impact here for Mark as he goes into the wall. That was the 8th position car at Fuji. Let's have another look at the gear in the background. Yeah,
impact had happened already, John.
Yeah, it may have been that Mark was already on the inside and just collected the Ferrari already.
Matteo Cressoni in the number 90 car.
This one was definitely the most requested one from part 1, and this is Mike Rockenfeller's 2011 24 Hours of Le Mans crash, where in the night stages of the race, just before 11 p.m., he made contact with the GTE Ferrari of Rob Kaufman and went into the barrier at over 300 kilometers an hour. Mike was taken to the hospital for precautions, but was released the next morning.
Und nochmal aus der Indoor-Perspektive.
Another heavily requested incident was Jan Mardenbrough's VLN flip at the Nürburgring in 2014. His Nissan GTR caught some air going over a crest, which resulted him flipping violently into an area where there were spectators, where tragically one fan would lose their life and several others would get injured. Jan himself was relatively unharmed, but was taken to the local medical facility for further evaluation. While battling for the lead at the 1986 IMSA race at Road America, Davy Jones got off track, lost control, and had this brutal impact into the wall.
Just a awful crasher, Davy Jones. Oh, Cyril Vandenberg, who was riding in 4th, came through in the Corvette, had nowhere to go. He tagged the literally destroyed BMW. Now we're with John Morton as he rides through the debris. Let's just hope that Davy Jones is okay, Brock. He impacted that embankment at, what, 150 maybe?
It had to be 150 miles an hour. Here is the Corvette of Vandenberg. It's damaged. He'll have to stop at the pits. He's way slower. Look at this. Emergency crews heading. Jones is out of the race car. He stepped out of that March-built BMW-powered chassis. It stayed together. Here come the GTO cars heading toward the scene of the crash. That's Scott Pruitt. The yellow flags waving. Debris all over the racetrack. The wrecked automobile. That's got to be a moment of hesitation for all the drivers watching this. But they can see that Jones is standing beside the car. He's all right. A miracle. Let's take another look at this, Steve. Here comes Jeff Brabham in the Nissan. Right behind him, you can see him. There's Davy Jones getting his left wheels off on the dirt. The car takes a sharp right-hand turn and head on into that fence on the inside.
Now watch the airborne gyrations as car goes through. It spins 360 after 360. Davy Jones right now awful glad he's in an IMSA style endurance car because his feet are further back than the European version. And there comes Vandermerve. He absolutely was an innocent bystander, had nowhere to go, and hit with the right front and hit hard.
The 1987 IMSA race at Sears Point saw Bob Wallock's Porsche 962 blow a tire going into the first turn, spinning into the dusty hillside, and flipping violently. Bob needed a little help being extracted from the car, but only suffered a dislocated shoulder in the accident.
In place, about to get a look at Elliott Forbes Robinson, and he goes right around with a skid up front. Was that Wallock? Hard into the... It is Wallock. The car has crashed horribly. Bob Wallock has flipped, spun, and torn off all the bodywork. You see him moving around in the car, but he is sitting on his head. Bob Wallock's right arm moving around there. He is apparently digging on those belts, trying to get himself unhooked. And we will see here, there.
Definitely the right rear just let go. The car came sideways and around, and the right rear just let go. He had absolutely no right rear traction at all.
Now we'll take a look from a camera up the hill, and we'll see if we can get a closer look as Bob Wallock enters turn one. Look right down there under the bridge, and Bob Wallock will come into your picture from the right-hand side. There he comes. By then, oh!
The car was just launched. It was just flinging up in the air, and then it hit the embankment there. That was an incredible hit. You know, that was probably equal if you had hit a cement wall.
A monumental impact, and you see the result to the Goodrich Porsche 962 of Bob Wallock. We'll be back with whatever assessment of his condition we can get for you in a moment.
I hope we get to see this twice, because this time you're going to just look where the car was going. You see that shake, that shudder, and then the rear end comes out. But the next time I want you to watch his hands, because the instinctive thing that he did was to try to collect it. He still tried to save that.
Okay, there's where the camera obviously became disabled in this tremendous crash suffered by Bob Wallock. We'll bring the tape back one more time now, and Lynn, your comment about his driving. Just
watch the lower right corner. You can see his glove and see his hands, and he's perfectly calm here, perfectly, has very stable on the, grip on the steering wheel there. He's just starting to turn it in now, and that happens. When the rear end came out, he completely went to a reverse lock and tried to save the car.
Turning to the right, you see the gauges light up as the oil pressure and the engine go haywire.
The 2006 Grand Am race at Long Beach saw Bert Fell have a mechanical issue. He was slow on the front straightaway and tried to get out of the way and did not see a group of oncoming cars. He gets absolutely hammered by Eddie Cheever and Rocky Moran. Thankfully, everyone was all right.
On his face, he will not be smiling when he finds out what is going on. Oh!
Huge crash in the front straightaway. It's going to collect more cars. That was really a top speed, 160-mile-an-hour hit right there.
Huge crash. You saw Bert Fell trying to get out of the way as his damaged number 8 car limping along, trying to pull to the right. It looked like Cheever trying to come up the inside, Fell trying to get out of the way, and instead they got together. A huge impact.
Massive accident. The front end of the 8 gone completely. We don't know about the 39. That's right at the fastest part of the corner. It's a blind corner here. The 99's involved, badly involved.
Big damage there. Rocky Moran with significant damage to the Gainesco car. Saw significant damage to the 8 and the 39. You just take a look at Gary Grossenbacher there with the sunglasses on, crosses his arms and says, I cannot believe this. What do we have to do?
That corner in the front straightaway is flat out. You're in top gear, and you can't see. As you see Cheever right there with the 39, actually driving along, which surprises me. It was a huge hit.
You see a lot of sparks underneath the Cheever car. He'll come to pit road.
No left front on that.
The left front is deranged there. Rocky Moran out of his car, the windshield gone out of Cheever's car, and it is difficult, Dorsey. You said it is flat out, and it is a pretty tight bend in the road there, and you saw Bert trying to get out of the way.
And with oil, remember, he's got oil coming out of the back of the thing that was on fire for a while.
Unfortunately for Yvan DMOS, he also made his way into the first compilation, but this wreck took place in 1992 at Monza. While leading in his Peugeot 905, he ended up going for a spin, getting some air on the curb, and flipping into the gravel before landing upside down just before the tire barrier. But what makes this one so dramatic is the amazing footage of the cameraman who captured it continued to roll and get very up close as the safety team was trying to extract Yvan DMOS out of the car.
Of Weidler and Sala now right at the back of the field. Problem for DMOS. DMOS in the lead. Oh! DMOS with terrible problems. The car on its roof and the crews and marshals on their way. And this is a serious situation with the possibility of fuel leaking, fire starting. Urgent action required down in the pits. The news coming over the crackly radio to them. DMOS is helped out, obviously shaken but unhurt. The car is righted. A disastrous situation for DMOS and Peugeot. Approaching the second chicane at about 180 miles an hour. The rear brakes lock up, the car over the curbs, and suddenly airborne and rocking, rolling and turning over. Thank goodness DMOS had the good sense to come in and have his seatbelts done up.
The 1993 IMSA race at Watkins Glen saw one of the most brutal incidents you will ever see, with the car stopped on the racetrack in quite possibly the worst place.
Two of the Nissans at the front of the GTS category have crashed and hard. Steve Millen and Johnny O'Connell. Along with a third car, which we believe is Brent O'Neill. Number 25, there's O'Neill climbing out. Millen's car was already stopped. And O'Connell came flying through and apparently could not avoid the two crashed automobiles. There's the Shader and Earl Camel Lights car. This brings out a full course caution.
Very big accident. Steve Millen had got together with O'Neill. That's Johnny O'Connell. He's gotten himself over the guardrail now. That was a huge impact as O'Connell had nowhere to go. He T-boned the car of Steve Millen. We see that car on fire. All drivers out. That's Johnny O'Connell laying there being attended to. Well, that's Steve Millen in the number 1 car and Brent O'Neill. They've made contact. Steve's backing up. Here comes Johnny O'Connell. Nowhere to go. Hits Millen's car at a ton. I mean, 140, 50 mile per hour hit right there. That's O'Connell going into the guardrail with the car on fire, just starting fire. Totally destroyed race car right there. As you see, it has blocked the track. We got a couple cars coming.
You'll see P.J. Jones come through here in a second as Brent O'Neill is the first to climb out of his car. There's the Leitzinger Nissan as O'Neill scrambles to safety.
It looks like Brent has got a leg problem. He's hurt his leg. He's going to go over and sit down. That's Bob Shader, Bob Earl car snaking its way through. Here is, in fact, Johnny O'Connell, who's got himself out of his car, and he's really taken a blow, too. He's coming over the guardrail to safety there. We still haven't seen Steve Millen in his car, the car that was sitting still that got broadsided at a huge impact.
We saw O'Neill and O'Connell both get out of their cars, with Johnny O'Connell literally having to dive over the guardrail to avoid being struck by an oncoming Porsche 911. But Millen would get the worst of this one, as it took the rescue team nearly an hour to extract Millen from his wrecked race car, and he fractured his skull in 2 places, as well as breaking his jaw, 5 ribs, and his arm. He also damaged an eardrum and nerves in his face. He couldn't even smile or shut his eyes, and his jaw had to be wired shut. For 6 weeks, he ended up eating food through a straw. 2 months after the incident, doctors grafted a piece of bone from his hip, holding it in place with a titanium plate and 8 screws. Millen was leading the championship at this time, but due to these significant injuries, he never got to finish the season. But he would come back strong in 1994, winning the first 3 races of the season, including the 24 Hours of Daytona and the 12 Hours of Sebring. The 1986 IMSA race at Riverside saw this horrific accident when Doc Bundy made this optimistic move to take it 3 wide with Lynn St. James and Chip Robinson. Chip Robinson's Jaguar flipped upside down, and so did Lynn St. James's Ford, which burst into flames. Thankfully, she was able to get extracted from the car, and all drivers were uninjured due to this very scary accident.
And we have another angle. Here's the replay.
Look at the Jag starting to take off right here. There's the back off the ground. As the probe is going up on the rail, the Jag is totally airborne at this point.
Unbelievable. Now watch the Jaguar as it hits the dirt bank and then begins a series of flips and rolls.
This is incredible. It's a testimony to the strength of all 3 of these cars, because at that point they are running 150 to 160 miles an hour, flat out, just newly into 5th gear.
And look at the damage to the wall.
There's a concrete wall. Oh, the Jag is just destroyed. But look at the roll cage is held up. The Corvette, all of the compartments where the drivers sit, they have all held up remarkably well.
And there's what's left of the Ford Pro, but again, we will tell you that all 3 drivers did manage to get out of their cars.
Well, that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps me out. And subscribe for more motorsports content just like this. That's all for now. I hope to see you in my next one. Take care, everybody.